Hello, YouTube, Instagram, and whoever all else. I wanted to get a good little video here of our latest train layout before I have to put it back up that me and my nephew Reagan made. So, yeah, believe it or not, I actually didn't use all of my track. Uh, Once you run out of curve track, it's a little hard to find a way to keep going sometimes, but I came very close to using everything, so I'm proud of myself. And it's a very good layout. Alrighty. First thing you may notice, especially those of you that are well versed in your Thomas lore, is we have two entirely separate railways. Because for the first time, I decided to make sure the narrow gauge engines had their own railway. So this is a very nice homage to that, if you will. So, and I try to do all my organizing by numerical order in a way. So, and also giving the narrow gauge engines their own railway was one way to use the extra freaking turntable without having to build a freaking freight yard or anything. So, I believe the green engine over there is Sam. He's a kind of a one-off character in the books. He's the one that unloads Skarloey in the 1800s when they first bring Skarloey for the Skarloey Railway. So that's why he's kind of engine number 0 there. And then you got a narrow gauge number 1 Skarloey, narrow gauge number 2 Rheneas. In blue you got narrow gauge number 3 Sir Handel. And Peter Sam, narrow gauge number 4. I never can keep straight which one was Stuart and which one was Falcon from the beginning of the Mid-Sodor Railway part of the story. I don't know. Remember them more by the newer names anyway. And Peter Sam's one of my favorites just because he's dark green, of course. You got number 5 Rusty and number 6 Duncan. Moving right along as we sort of pass the area where the standard gauge and the narrow gauge can talk to each other. You got my Green Bay train, which amazingly was acquired separately. The engine and the little junction sign there were together years ago, maybe a decade ago or so. And then the boxcar itself we bought in Green Bay this last year when we were at the National Railway Museum when we went to the Washington at Green Bay game. So, and I don't know, just based on the style of the way the Green Bay engine is built, that's why I paired it with the narrow gauge engines. Cross from the Green Bay is a Caldy from the Mountain Railway, the Caldy Fell Mountain Railway, which never actually appeared in the television show because unfortunately they couldn't really find a way to design a model for that. But in the books, the beginning of Caldy's story, he's on a cart coming back from repair right next to the narrow gauge railway, and his construction kind of fits narrow gauge, so I just threw him on the narrow gauge. And then coming over here, we hit sort of our imaginary lake for the narrow gauge loop around here, where we have all the boats, which Theodore, Hank, and Emily from the Theodore Tugboats show. Much lesser known show. I kind of barely remember it, but it's kind of having those in the layout just because they go together. And the generic barge and all 3 of those, I believe, are Brio, technically. And then the yellow boat is a Sodor boat from the official Thomas. And over here we got a Duke. And I believe these outdoor blue carriage cars were from the narrow gauge in the books. I don't remember for sure, but I think they were, so that's why I gave them to the narrow gauge. Alrighty. And now working our way towards the standard gauge roundhouse. Alrighty. Right. All the originals, starting with number 1 Thomas, of course. Edward is my all-time favorite, so that's why I've got both my original Edward and a very much newer version of Edward that I bought when I was working for Toys R Us a few years ago. So if I ever actually made stories or anything, I'd jokingly call the newer Edward Cullen, so can have them be twins and just like Donald and Douglas. Because joke being that I hate that Edward Cullen from Twilight's now the most famous fictitious Edward instead of Edward the Blue Engine. A title I kind of, you'd think Edward had that title until the mid 2000s, but you know. Then you got Henry, Gordon, the regular James. Up there you got battery powered James and the Buzz James with the red nose. You got Percy and Toby. The one train I cannot find anywhere is Toby's coach, Henrietta. So, my little Toby's sad for that, but considering how much these trains have been played with, both from when I was growing up and now with my niece and nephew, it's kind of amazing that, as far as I can tell, we're only missing one, so it's pretty nice. And then Duck, of course, number 8, so that's 1 through 8. The 8 famous engines. Alrighty, and then working our way further down the line. Oh, well, yeah, of course. We put Knapford Station and Signal together. I know the generic Sodor crane kind of doesn't exactly fit with the passenger area, but I just kept it sort of all together just to use the double line combos without having to come up with anything else fancy. Then you got number 9 Donald with the breakdown train in front and Douglas with the mail train in back. Nice little inversion there, I thought, anyway. Got Oliver, number 11, with Sodor chocolate cars, and Toad, Oliver's brake van. You've got Emily, the sort of future Sodor number 12 with the recycling cars. Dark green theme there, with the dark green being my favorite color. I personally look at season 1 through 4 as the only proper part of the show because it's the only part that's actually Railway Series, and then seasons 5 through 7 are pretty good Apocrypha. But Emily's kind of the best new engine from that time, I think, so that's kind of why, and obviously, being a glutton for dark green, that's why I kind of had to have her. And then you got Bill and Ben with the Sodor clay cars, because, they worked in the clay works. And a stop and go station along with the railway crossing. And I've got all of my road characters with the imaginary road here. Birdie, Terrence, Trevor, and Butch, and Harold. It's like, I guess it's my imaginary helicopter pad there. You got the Sodor engine repair right there. You got Mavis with the tar and fuel. You've got Diesel with the Chinese dragon. I didn't really have a good companion for the dragon with the way I set this up, so I was like, okay, for the chase sequence we got going on down here, why not just throw it with Diesel for a miniature little scare factor. And then in this little part of the run around is where I've got the Thomas and the Magic Railroad characters. You got Lady about to go through the buffers back to Shining Time Station, and you got Diesel 10, Splatter, and Dodge chasing her. And then right here, this monstrosity that I came up with just to make a massive freight train with Boko, the only engine logical to pull such a large freight train in a way. And if you're wondering, back in the good old days, the only way to get Boko was exclusively in the James Goes Buzz 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 set, just because he has a periphery part in that episode. So yeah, he came with the red nose Buzz 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 James. So yeah, inside the elevated tunnel are the regular troublesome trucks, and so they're kind of bland. That's why I've got them being the part of the train hidden in the tunnel. Then you got that coal car Fred. I think he's in the books, and he might not be standard gauge. That might be a screw up. He might not be standard gauge, but I just decided to throw him with the freight train anyway. And then you got Scruffy, Henry's Logs from Henry's Forest. The oil car there. Hilariously, the ones that designed it have a sense of humor, because one of them says petrol for you English folks, and the other one says oil for us Americans. Got Cranky the Crane and a crane car there, and spiteful brake fans on the back of this thing, just because kind of the best looking brake van I got in a way. You know, obviously Toad had to go with Oliver, so. Now, I can't remember whether the yellow load came with the car, with the actual car, or what. Or, because it's like we got two of those rectangular shipping loads, because obviously, and I had one of them in the set just with the other crane, just because. So, yeah. And then over here, we got Flying Scotsman with all of my express coaches. We got Stephanie borrowing Annie and Clarabelle, so Thomas can stay with the 8 famous engines. You got Daisy taking the milk, because I guess she learned her lesson. I figured that'd be funny. So, and that brings us back to that. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting... Goes through, around, loops on itself, and loops on itself. But, hey, it's one way to make a fully enclosed layout, you know? And then, obviously back around. Oh, I didn't point out the Sodor engine wash the first time we were over here, but oh well. And if you're wondering, the breakaway buffers are ones Thomas is set up on. I just decided to put him there in case I wanted to throw Gordon into the ditch later. So, yeah. Pretty nice little layout. And for the life of me, I think this is the first time I've ever done this, giving the narrow gauge engines their own separate railway. I'm like, why on earth did I never do that when I was a kid? Maybe I did and I've forgotten. I don't know. But anyways, now that I got the family all back together, it's my first layout with all of them. Alrighty. See you later.